There are two truths in this world. One, recent AAA first-person shooters have been lackluster, evidenced by Battlefield 2042's rough launch and the fact that it seems there are currently more players in Warzone than in the latest Call of Duty title. And two, there have been a ton of solid throwback first-person shooters over the past 5 years. One that I recently picked up with a slew of others is HROT or HROT, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. The game is developed by Spitiniev, one person from the Czech Republic, and I've linked their Twitter in the description. The game takes a ton of inspiration from Quake, though there are some enemies I definitely felt were inspired by Doom. All in all, two things that you will not hear any complaints from me when you're claiming inspiration from. In typical first-person shooter style, there isn't a lot of exposition in this game. To be completely frank, it's virtually non-existent. What we do know is this. The year is 1986, the Soviet Union is still around, and in Soviet Czechoslovakia, you're in the middle of a major disaster. What's the disaster, you might ask? Well, your guess is as good as mine, but guess what? It's ultimately unimportant. You're about to be thrown into a world loaded with intricate level design, challenging fights, and some downright creepy areas. According to what I was reading, and I'll pull the ignorant American card on this one, a lot of where the game takes place is in real-life Prague, or at least in locations inspired by real-life Prague. You start out in the metro deep below the city, but as you move through that area, you'll find yourself in the sewers because, of course, it's a first-person shooter, and even places like Vitkov Hill. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right because it was the site of a real battle in the early 15th century. This all happens in a custom-made engine, and the best part about that is the Steam minimum requirements list. It calls for you to have a computer running Windows XP, 2 GB of RAM, and an Intel HD 4400 graphics card. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call this pandering, but you can't say that the developer doesn't know the audience that he's looking for. The weapons are pretty standard fare for a game of this style, which is not at all a complaint. Everything on offer, from pistols to a Tesla-style cannon, do exactly what they need to, though I found myself using the assault rifle, the Hussite hand cannon, which is the stand-in for a rocket launcher, and the shotgun the most. Once I got the super shotgun, though, it was game over for every other weapon until I ran out of ammo. You can give the heavier enemies, featuring one such enemy that will net you an achievement for getting that gib on it. I can't lie, I laughed pretty hard when I did get it too. But running through an area with that super shotgun, laying waste to everything that stood between the level's end and myself, was just a truly and immensely satisfying feeling. My only complaint with the weapons is with that Tesla cannon style gun. It's that it isn't readily given to you until the very end of the game. It makes sense given the weapon's ludicrous power, but given how early I was given other weapons like the Hussite hand cannon, a weapon with power that was just about on par, it could have shown up earlier. One thing that HROT does super well, though, is interactivity. Even though it's likely less than my brain associates it being, environmental interaction can be a huge first-person shooter mechanic. Sure, it can be little things like flipping on and off light switches, or, since I've been playing the original Shadow Warrior, playing pachinko machines, but this game brings a very unique flavor to this. To quote directly from the Steam page, every level contains socialist paraphernalia which nowadays can only be found in museums or your grandma's attic. You can build Matryoshka dolls, you can listen to number stations, you can play the piano, you can read some Lenin, or you can even play billiards. The apocalyptic world was obviously lived in when the disaster occurred, and the personality this brings to the game and to everything that just involves it absolutely rocks. The game design will certainly test your ability to fight through, and how willing you are to persevere as well. There is a very heavy-handed emphasis on the quick save and quick load because there are no checkpoints. It's definitely going to be a familiar system to anyone who has played a game of the genre, but sometimes you blank on hitting that quick save, you're pretty deep into that level, and then just like that you've been killed by a wayward grenade or a hit scan weapon. There were definitely a few points where I had the amount of enemies that I was dealing with severely outweighed the amount of ammo I had, which meant I was resorting to my pistol. Let's just say that thing isn't too hot. Fortunately, it wasn't super often, and eventually I worked through all those mildly frustrating parts, and by that I mean I got real intimate with the quick save mechanic. My only other complaint really has nothing to do with the game, but God, I hate spiders. Remember how I mentioned those creepy areas earlier? Yeah, well, eventually you find yourself in a mausoleum and its related crypts. The design reminded me a lot of the crypts in Return to Castle Wolfenstein, but there's a big difference, and that comes in the form of spiders. I loathe spiders, and dealing with the spiders, including the boss fight against one, made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. If there's one enemy I could remove from games wholesale, it would be spiders. We just don't need them, and I won't listen to your case. Hell, I literally named the boss fight clip here Spider Bullshit. Fuck spiders. Even with those things, I still had a super fun time playing through Episode 1 of HROT, HROT, whatever you want to call it. Episode 2, which appears to take place during the Hussite Wars, is pretty fun as well, and it looks like Spitniev is planning to have it out by June 22nd. It's certainly a unique take on the FPS genre, though you'll certainly be familiar with the mechanics and how it feels. After completing the first episode, it ends with a recipe for beef stroganoff, so here you go. Now you know how to make beef stroganoff, so make sure you like the video, I'd greatly appreciate it, drop a comment, and if you're so inclined, hit that sub button too. Until next time, take care.